I don't know if I could follow that act of yelling and all that, so I apologize. I'm Jorge from Arcade. I got an awesome star-studded lineup here. I got Johnny from Crypto Banter. I got Danny Moser, one of the co-founders of Arcade, and I got the CEO of Arcade here, Josh Poole. And so we want to get straight to education. We want to make it entertaining for you guys, and we wanted to go right into it. I think my first question to you guys was, what is the biggest challenge to massive adoption of GameFi? So kick it off, Johnny.
Yeah, so I think the biggest challenge right now in GameFi is barrier to entry. And I'm not just talking about the price, I'm also talking about the ease of access for someone to get in and learn how to create a wallet and be able to integrate it into a game and actually participate. But at the same time, you're looking at the cost of these games and these NFTs, thousands of dollars potentially for a gamer to get into a game when traditionally speaking, they may have spent at max $100 before on a traditional GameStop collector's edition game. So spending thousands of dollars just for access to a game right now, it's not the method that I think is going to long-term stick. And I think we'll talk about sustainability, but I think that barrier to entry is the number one issue for a traditional gamer. No one's walking into GameStop to spend $1,000 on a game.
Oh yeah, Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with Johnny. I think that, the barrier to entry is definitely one of the main things that is inhibiting new adoption. And I think what's really interesting, and we're going to talk a little bit about kind of sustainability, like you said, but the, I think that the ability for people to actually have some stake of ownership of those assets is really the important thing here, because you would never go into GameStop and drop $1,000, but maybe if you have an NFT that gives you access to that game, then you're able to kind of, recoup some of that money later into the, in the future if you decide that you want to leave that title. So I think that's really the main barrier to entry is definitely the price point, but I think that there are ways around it with NFTs kind of having that store of value for people.
Yeah, and to add to that, it's the same barriers to entry for regular crypto and blockchain in general as education, right? Like just getting people to understand how to open a wallet, download it, manage it. Then you have to get into NFTs. Then you have to talk about the tokens. There's a lot that goes into crypto gaming and blockchain play to earn gaming. So the education is where it needs to start, getting people to just understand the space and learning the basics first. But
yeah, and all this talk about GameFi, I have to ask, what do you guys think the biggest benefit to GameFi is today? And I guess, go for it, Johnny.
I think it's the few O's. Ownership, right? So most gamers, you've bought a Fortnite skin. You've bought a downloadable content. DLC is what it's called in traditional games. You've bought a battle pass in Fortnite. You bought a skin in Fortnite. That relates with a lot of gamers because most gamers that spend a lot of time in actual Web 2 games, they have spent dollars in that game. And you ask them, have you bought a Fortnite skin? Yes. Would you like to be able to resell that skin when you're done playing the game? The answer is always yes. You grinded for stuff. You put time in. It could have rarity at some point. So ownership and opportunity, because not everything has to be invest X to earn Y in a game. A game should be fun and a game should be gameplay driven. I think ownership and opportunity are the two big things.
Yeah, I agree. It's got to be fun. I mean, that's how you're going to attract all these people in the mass. But I'd like to hear what you guys think about it, definitely.
Yeah, no, I think, the main issue with sustainability right now in play to earn is that there's not enough play for fun factor. There's a lot of people that are going into these in-game economies just to extract value from it. And there's no way that can be sustainable. It creates this, one-way entry into the economy. You have to have people that are willing to play the game without expectation of return, right? So you can own that NFT and that can be a store of value for you, but maybe you're willing to pay that $1,000 just to get access to that economy and just to get access to the fun that happens in that game, right? And I think that's really where a lot of these AAA quality games that like Arcade is getting involved in are going to come into play, right? We have these AAA quality titles that are going to, they're not competing with these other A or AA quality games. They're competing with Activision and Blizzard, right? So they're competing with the AAA quality games. And I think that really is going to lead to the sustainability factor because we know how much money flows into traditional gaming right now, right? So add in the ability to have true ownership, right? And the ability to recoup some of that invested money if you want to. That's really the key, right? It's
And time.
And time, exactly.
Yeah, and to piggyback off what you're talking about for ownership and everything, it builds a real sense of community. There are communities of all these different backgrounds, people who are traditional gamers, people who are traditional finance people that see the opportunity in play to earn gaming. There's people that just collect NFTs. they all join these individual game communities, and sometimes you'll see DAOs form from that, where it's actually sharing ownership of all these different assets. So it really builds a really cool sense of community of people with all different backgrounds that you never would think would all be a part of the same organization.
And I guess, Josh, we were just talking, since you got talking about sustainability, I got to say, I see a million games coming in. I think even around the room, we're seeing a million games. And I have to ask, how does this become sustainable? You know what I mean? And what do you, Johnny, I think I want to hear your take, because I watch you every day on the shows, and you're talking about different games all the time. So I'd love to hear what you're saying.
So right now, I think the problem with play to earn and sustainability is the fact that it's associated with a token. Every game right now and there's an earnings token. And when you're a player, traditionally speaking, I don't earn tokens when I play Call of Duty. That's never been a thing in gaming unless it's like an MMORPG, World of Warcraft, RuneScape, stuff like that, where you collect currency, but it's used in the game. It's not where you sell it to extract real-world profits, and I think the fact that it's based off a coin with a price right next to it, that is what leads to I'm investing X to earn Y, when I think all we need to go towards is progression-based gameplay and progression-based earnings. Traditionally speaking, the best thing in games is when you level up. You unlock something new. You unlock a new gun, a new camouflage, a new skin. Why don't we just incentivize players who put in the time, put in the investment in the game, who are actually grinding the game, and then the marketplace only needs to be set by the game. The game needs to take a fee from the market, and it sets itself. Because players sell their World of Warcraft accounts every day online on third-party websites, not backed by the game. So if the game just provides the infrastructure and they provide earnings for more incentivized players to play the game, not invest money and extract from the game, I think that's where we'll actually start to see sustainability come into the space.
This man is spitting alpha, huh? Oh my God, I love it. What do you? I gotta hear what your takes are. Danny, go for it.
Of course, you throw me under the bus after that one.
Dude,
Yeah, so piggybacking off that, just having, like you're saying, having everyone with the same mindset going in that I need to play to earn and not play for fun. That's where it really starts with the issues. Everybody's having the same mindset. When everyone's just trying to make that money, you're not going to enjoy yourself as well. So
yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to add, going back a little bit to the token structure, I think we're really starting to learn that there needs to be a complex token structure with a lot of these economies, right? If it's a very simple in-game currency that you're earning and extracting from the game and then dumping on the open market, it creates a ton of sell pressure, like we saw with SLP or SPL, right? Or SLP. And I think that a lot of these games are starting to catch on to that. They're creating, they have a governance token that has very specific purposes. They have an in-game token that has actual utility that injects capital into the economy, and it's not just an emission token. And then I think, to your point, Johnny, having a way to reward people with NFTs, right, and then maybe funnel them through to a marketplace that game has that helps create more value for the token, then it's not just an aggressive emission schedule, right?
Yeah, and look at what Avalanche is doing, for example. They're powering project with a subnet to utilize one of their tokens as gas for the network. So we saw what it did for Avalanche, BNB, Ethereum. When you're burning it for gas consistently, the pressure for that token eases up a lot whenever it becomes to an earnings token and balancing out the sustainability. So that's one pro. If you're going to do a token looking towards a subnet like what Avalanche is doing, that can utilize your token with a burn mechanism that's actually sustainable and not just some one-time burn that these projects try to do to pump their price.
And it's funny, man. You mentioned before a couple games from the traditional esports stuff, and I'm older, so I'm starting to see like some of the games that I used to be, like Call of Duty, and I'm wondering, when are those games going to start coming in? And so I got to ask, like, what do you think? What's the role of those traditional games in coming into this market? Like, where do you see them fitting in, and how are they going to come in?
Right now, they don't fit in because their model is extract money from the players. All these games, they're free to play, but eventually most players start aping in their dollars to the game. So where do they play in right now? They're the model that we're trying to break, right? And once they kind of see a actual AAA title come in and set the standard for play to earn, and they actually maybe see some of their players start to shift, the narratives start to shift from Web 2 gaming to Web 3. The Web 2 guys and the Web 2 gamers are like, NFTs are a scam. Why should I, that's like the main thing you hear online. So I think once a game comes in and overcomes that curve, the studios are going to have to pay attention, and they're already paying attention. Activision bought Microsoft, Microsoft bought Activision. Yeah, Microsoft bought Activision as a part of their metaverse play. So like they're thinking down the line here that could really become a part of this industry and not just a fad. So
Yeah, I mean, I think that they tried to ignore the problem for as long as they could, right? And they recognized, I think that these major gaming studios and these large entities, they're very exploitive, right? They're like, they're all about making the money off. Like as a player, you're just a figure, right? Like you're contributing.
they have economy specialists at game studios. These traditional games have economy specialists. Like they build that in.
It's about how they can extract value from you as a player, right? And I think people are starting to wake up and realize that as a gamer, you have a right to some of that, right? It's not all just going to the Activisions and the Blizzards. And I think that those companies are going to play an important role in, onboarding into Web3 gaming once they come around. And I think that there's a lack of understanding on their part that, when you really adopt an NFT model, with a lot of the projections that you can run, you can make just as much money for your shareholders, right? I mean, with NFT royalties and all this stuff. So I think they're starting to kind of come around, and we're going to see more and more of that adoption. But, it's just right now, I think everyone needs to understand how early we are, right? I mean, we're so early to GameFi that, everyone in this room right now is ahead of the Microsofts and the Activisions, right? Because they're just starting to take notice, and I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to see where we're going to be in 5 or 10 years, to see some of the childhood games that I used to play and be in GameFi, because you might not even see me anymore. I might be behind a screen the whole time. But with that said, I think you guys are bringing up another point, right? So we see all these traditional games hopefully coming into the space. There's all these GameFi with their tokens and everything. And I got to say, where do you see the cross chain? I mean, everybody's on a different chain. Everybody's got their own thing, their tokens. And I think that's kind of like an issue, right? I mean, especially for newer people coming into the space to learn about which chain or what coin or token. There's a lot definitely that to understand. I still don't understand it sometimes. I'm confused and I'm Googling it and I'm like, okay, what do I got to do? So I'd like to hear your take.
Yeah, interoperability is definitely a big hurdle right now. Having all these different chains, storing tokens on different chains, everything, trying to connect the two. It's kind of like what's going on in traditional gaming right now. You have PCs, you have Xbox, you have PlayStation. Now they're all working together where you can have cross-platform and be able to play against those other different systems, and it's great. So trying to bring that into crypto and blockchain play to earn gaming, once that's actually there, the support's all we need. We really, really need that because it is very complicated to try and get someone who only understands Ethereum to learn Solana or to learn these other different blockchains. So having that interoperability protocol or something that's the glue to all of this, like Arcade, that's really where it comes to. It's going to be very, very beneficial to the whole space.
Because for years, there was the console barrier. You couldn't play with your friend if they had a PlayStation and you had an Xbox. That was forever the big deal. And that's not an easy thing to go trade out your Xbox for a brand new PS4 when you're a kid growing up. Mom, I need to go to GameStop and get this console because my friends are playing it. That's not an easy thing to overcome. So we saw cross-platform gaming come in, like you said. Xbox, PC, and PlayStation can play together. And there will be barriers here. So when it's cross-chain, let's say we're on Polygon, Binance, and Avalanche chain, it's not going to work at first where Polygon users can play against Avalanche users. There's a smart contract issue there. But one thing that this does for games is it onboards more users. That's like Call of Duty being on Xbox only. That erases 66% of their market right there. It's 2 consoles off the grid out of 3. So if you take the cross-chain and you at least provide the opportunity for people to get in on different chains, your user base can grow tenfold because there's Polygon whales, there's Avalanche whales, there's Ethereum whales, and they might want to strictly operate on those chains. And in the current state of gaming right now, games are on one chain. So if you're a Polygon guy, you might only be participating on Polygon games, but there's so much more opportunity out there. So if games can take it cross-chain, their user bases will grow tenfold.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you make a really good point there that, we're so early to GameFi. We really can't afford for what interest we do have, what adoption we do have to be split across 5 or 10 different chains, right? So, I think that a big part of scaling GameFi into the future is going to be that interoperability and finding ways for all of these different chains. Because, you have people that are diehard to one chain, right? You have people that just don't want to leave BSC. or they only want to be on Ethereum. Ethereum maxes a BSC, whatever the case is. We need a way for those people to be able to interact with one game in one place from their preferred chain, right? And I think there is tech that's building to this solution, right? It's just, it goes kind of back to being so early, but I think right now it sometimes feels like GameFi is a little bit barren because we are split up across so many different chains, right? So, I think that's an important consideration, but I think to your point, it's just going to be really important going into the future that this is stuff that is continued to be addressed and that we have that cross-chain functionality and don't lose sight of the need for it.
Yeah, and I think it kind of leads into my next question of like, where do you see the space in like 5 or 10 years or even next year, right? I mean, this space is growing so fast. I mean, it's just insane how much money's coming in right now. I mean, we're seeing all these VCs every day. There's a different article about 300 million coming in from Sequoia, 100 million coming in from another VC. And so I have to ask, like, where do you see the space in a year? Where do you see the space in 5 years? And, I'd like to hear where you're
Just to try to keep it simple. So let's look at gaming as an adoption curve and development curve. So right now, play-to-earn games for the most part aren't great. They're not fun. Most of them are turn-based. Click, click, you earn. Not the most engaging. So right now, we're at like that early curve. So right now, traditional gaming, we started at Atari. We came up through free-to-play, through like Farmville, Mob Wars on Facebook, and now we're at the free-to-play Warzone, Fortnite, but we're crossing into this era of VR and metaverse. That little curve resets now. We're at the bottom of the curve. We're at the Farmvilles and the Mafia Wars of the Facebooks. We're going to find the flaws, and we're finding the flaws in these economies every day. All these games, some of them have strengths. Most of them have cons. So once we find out the sustainable model long-term, I think that the curve is only going to keep going. So, you're at the bare entry of this industry. Once the studios start getting in, Ubisoft has been getting the most backlash ever, and Ubisoft is trying to push NFTs into their games. So once a curve goes, Web 2 gamers flip the switch in their head that they can own their assets, that curve is just going to keep going, and we're going to eventually reach the top of that curve. But we're down here right now.
Yeah, and to add to that, you're saying, Web 2 gamers right now, there's around 3 billion Web 2 gamers out there in the world. There's only a couple million or a few million people that are actually utilizing NFTs or blockchain play-to-earn game right now. So think about how small we are in comparison to that. That's just saying how early we are. Those stats right there should show you that we're just tapping into this industry.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that, you bring up, the point that, being early in the supply curve here, I think that it's kind of a lack of, I think at times it's a lack of education. It's a lack of understanding, right? When we, even when we're kind of trying to educate people on what Arcade does, a lot of people are misunderstanding, the whole premise behind NFTs. Like they think that it's, a clever way for microtransactions to or they think it's only pay to win. And, there's a lot of backlash from the Web 2 community right now because there's a lack of understanding. I think, it's kind of our responsibility as Web 3 to understand how we can educate these people. And once they're in the space and they understand kind of how Web 3 works and the importance of decentralization in that sense, I don't think people are going to want to leave once they get in, right? As a Web 3 gamer myself, I don't play that many Web 2 games anymore. It's just it's not, once you're in, you're kind of in, right? So.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate all that because, like I said, I think it was a star-studded lineup. You guys spit some great alpha, and like I said, I'm very thankful to have Johnny, a good friend of mine as well. I get to watch the show every day on games and everything he's teaching about, and I think I'll probably do one last question before I open it to questions and answers for anybody out in the field that wants to ask these guys anything. But I guess my last question to be is, if you had one message to tell these guys in this crew, it could be anything, what would it be?
Keep educating. Get as many people out there to understand blockchain, how to download a wallet, how to manage NFTs, the basics first. Get them to just understand it.
Yeah, and I think education, just stick with it. Make sure that you don't, go in too heavily with too much conviction to the wrong projects. Educate yourself, diversify your risk, because you got to remember, this is, there's real money at play with these economies, and so you do need to kind of make sure that you're going in with, when you go in with conviction, make sure it's in an educated way. But yeah.
I think beyond that, know what you're getting involved in. So many people ape into stuff just off basis level. Look at the tokenomics, and in gaming right now, it's like everything. The health of the economy is so important. Nobody does that research. Know the factors that are gonna make economy either sustainable or unsustainable. Tokenomics are so crucial. So like, you don't get that info on YouTube. You don't get that info. No one's going to tell you that. You got to dig into the white papers, and you got to know what's value for these projects. So I think tokenomics are huge. That would be my input.
Agreed. There's definitely a little trial and error to that as well. Trying out all the different games and everything, seeing if the tokenomic structures actually work or if they're following the roadmap. So integrating yourself into those communities and actually talking with the game creators, then other people in the community, the mods, that's where you should start as well. If you have no idea where to start, immerse yourself.
Yeah, and I'll say, I'll do a special shout out and a special thank you to you, Johnny, because there are very few content creators that actually stick to like actually educating us, and I appreciate that from you because you keep it real, you keep it 100, and that's what we need in this space. People that actually care about this whole space growing, and it's not like shilling a project. It's not like go see the new latest fad. So I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, a lot of these content creators are all about the shilling, right? So, I mean, I appreciate that you actually keep it real. You provide content and education that's valuable to people. And that's really what, Arcade's about, too. And I think that's why, we get along so well, is that we're trying to educate the masses and kind of lower that barrier to entry to GameFi as a whole. And you're doing that through your content and kind of trying to onboard new people and educate them. So I think that's what it's all about. That's how we can give back and contribute to the growth of the space and kind of do our part to help grow it, right? So.
Yeah, and I think the last how I'll end it real quick is I guess if you want to give us like maybe a 10-second on what Arcade is and who you are and what you're doing, I'd love to just hear it, and then maybe even show a little bit of what the Arcade website looks like.
Yeah, so Arcade is essentially a infrastructure platform for GameFi, right? So when I say we're kind of lowering the barrier to entry, we're giving people the ability to hold the Arcade token that we have and gain optimal exposure to play-to-earn games without the need to actually own the NFT. So if you're going through, if you work a 40-hour week job, right, and you don't have time to keep up with Star Atlas and Illuvium and Heroes of Mavia and all these different games, right, you can come to the Arcade platform and diversify your exposure through the Arcade token via what we call mission pools. So these mission pools are essentially just a derivative of any in-game activity that's facilitated by Game Guild. So, we partner with Game Guild's professional players, and they execute on these in-game activities, and then everyone in the ecosystem gains a piece of that. And I think a big part of it is just educating in general, right? We're trying to target demographics of people that aren't necessarily super involved with GameFi. We're trying to educate them on how to gain that exposure in a responsible way. But yeah, that's a little bit about Arcade, and we do have.
Sure, if we could play the video real quick for about 45 seconds. It won't be quick. It'll be really quick to show you guys a little bit about how it works to get on the platform and learn about the platform. You guys could see it real quick with you guys could go ahead and play the video.
So, whether it be Star Atlas or Heroes of Mavia, ASM related games, Illuvium, you can kind of, piggyback off of the expertise of game guilds that are facilitating the in-game activities within these pools. We have sponsors that sponsor these pools, and those sponsorships is a way to inject additional capital into the space, right? So, that sponsorship ad, the ad revenue from that is going to the game developer, to the pools, to the players. So it's a way to kind of give back and inject additional capital into the space, right? And these mission pools, you can see, there's a description of what the actual activity is. If it's 30 days of harvesting alluvium land, or running a gym within AFA, right? Or a ship mission within Star Atlas, or a tournament in Heroes of Mavia. Whatever the case is. We can really interact with any of these in-game activities as a way to, lower that barrier to entry for people and give them that exposure that they're looking for. And, of course, we have ways that we can filter down the site and stuff of that nature. And this is not live yet, Jorge, right? So, this is an early demo. The launch of this platform and the launch of our token is going to be later in Q2. So, this is kind of a little sneak peek of what we're building, but, super excited to just have the opportunity to build in the GameFi space in general.
Yeah, and I think there's two things to add. I mean, I think one of the cool, impressive things about this project, is your backers, right? You're backed by Crypto.com. You're backed by Solana Ventures, KuCoin Labs. So I mean, there's some definitely notoriety on your project. So congratulations to everything the team is doing. And I'll open up to some questions and answers. If anybody wants to learn more about it's arcade2earn.io. Follow them on Twitter, Instagram, and I'm sure we had our banner behind before. So go for it.
What's up, guys? I appreciate all of you. Great information. When it comes to tokenomics, how do you prioritize what is most important?
So you got to look at, is it deflationary or is it inflationary? So obviously, some of these tokens, they just infinitely print into the economy, and they have no mechanism to offset that. Let's just call it breedonomics. That's what most games rely on right now. It's the mint breed cycle. You buy a character, you breed them, you get more assets. But then breeding eventually becomes either too expensive or not worth it. It's one of the two, because the token price is either going to pump too much and you can't breed for an ample price, or it dumps too much and no one wants to breed because the game dies. So I would say the utility token, whatever they're using is or in general, whatever is the main earning mechanic, needs to have a healthy mechanism to keep it floating. Like an inflationary token that's just infinitely printing, that's based off breeding only, red flag.
Yeah, and I think, Johnny, even more important than the fact, or the differentiation between inflationary and deflationary is just, like you said, the actual utility of it, right? If it's just a token that is on an aggressive emission schedule just to pay out high APYs, that's a major red flag to me, right? Like, there has to be a reason for someone to take that token that they're earning and inject it back into the economy, right? If you have to stop and think, okay, if I earn this token, am I just going to cash it out and exit the economy? That's no, right? That it can't be sustainable. There has to be something incentivizing those people to keep the token in the economy. And I think there are games that are doing this really well. Like, Heroes of Mavia is one that has a 2-token system. The Ruby token is inflationary, and it has a really strong model because they incentivize their users through their marketplace to keep the token in the ecosystem. So, and then Illuvium, of course, the earnings there is mostly in Ethereum, right? So you're earning a major, layer 1 token that can then be reinvested into the platform. So, I think that those are the red flags to look for. Is there incentive to inject that coin that you're earning back into the economy?
Next question.
Hey, how you guys doing? So my question is, basically, you talked a lot about sustainability and the play-to-earn system. I've looked at, I've read the white papers of Star Atlas, Illuvium, and many others. They all kind of have different models on how they do it. What would ideal sustainable economy look like in your guys' eyes? Like, was that burning, staking?
I think it's free to play. Let the players play the game. Like, there should be no barrier for a gamer to hop in the game, just like they can hop into Fortnite right now if you have an Xbox, a PS4, or a PC. So if you have the capabilities, it should be free to play. It should be progression based. Level 2, unlock. Level 3, unlock. You get the gold camo in Call of Duty. Not everyone earns the gold camo in Call of Duty. You should just be able to sell that on a marketplace that's assembled by the game. Think about OpenSea. All OpenSea does is take a fee of every transaction. OpenSea's worth how much money now? What did they just raise on their latest valuation? It's insane. So if the game sets up a marketplace and they just take a fee of what's traded, the game will speak for itself. If there's demand, they do it all the time. People sell accounts online right now. They sell Fortnite accounts, RuneScape accounts. So honestly, I just think the game needs to put the mechanisms in place. The market and the players will trade itself if the game's quality. So if they just take a percentage of the fees, I think that's where the space should go instead of relying on tokens.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point there that, some people say that, like Star Atlas, for example, there can be a $100,000 commandership in that game, right? So they're like, okay, how can someone get that ideal exposure to that? And that's kind of one of the problems that Arcade is solving. But in general, I think, like you said, there needs to be tiers, right? There needs to be a free-to-play level to get people into the game, show them that it's fun, keep them around, right? Just like Fortnite does. You get into Fortnite for free, and then before you know it, you're buying the battle pass. Or, if you're in Call of Duty, you're playing for free. Before you know it, you have the season pass. So I think that's kind of the ability to do that. So yeah. I think we're about out of time.
Yeah, we're out of time. So definitely follow Johnny on your Twitter's up there and our Twitter. We'll try to keep educating you guys. And I appreciate your time and have fun, everybody. Stay safe.
Thank you, everyone. Have fun.